Crew Logbook Entry 23rd of January. Another day, a set of administrative work. Project Diana has been promptly abandoned. My concern for not holding up resilience while the death seems to have not been ill-founded after all, and our chief engineer from the project, at least for now, by his expert opinion, not worth pursuing. The assistant stepped out again, and with fresh blood handed in PTO. Fine then, good doctor, head of security, clown, and I, it is. The morning was then rudely interrupted. I was just planning out our next route, but the head of security wanting to partake in the scientific progress after all. Now mind you, I would prefer if he did not obtain my resilience, and it was easy enough to talk him out of the application of resilience in favor of engaging in more offensive experimentation. Hammerhead and Hunter alongside Matriarch and Crawler in the future. Much to the doctor's joy, the former were all ready for experimentation. But procedures under preparation. I had other matters to attend. The clowns needed to construct our best fulgurant batteries, and he is already being a nuisance, while the doctor sought to prepare the experiment and for the head of security of an opportunity. Ensure the clown succeeds at fulfilling his duties, and his pay may get raised back to 10%. Now, while the procedure, as per the doctor's words, was once again a success, proof of his clear genius, we had to conduct a quick test of fury. Would a toy contraption trigger his body's new adrenal glands? Sadly, it appears that a form of perceived danger is required of simple outward stimulus. Very well, I shall take note of it for myself and the doctor. While not disappointed, seems to have gained some further profound understanding of the matters at hand. Next, I'm interrupted in checking the list of contracts by an explosion in industrial. Questioning the involved, the clown and head security, it appears that security was enthusiastic about his wage increase. I tried to show compassion to the clown. I really did. The hand slipped, you see, and he promptly tried to escape through a ship wall. I wish I was joking. I am not. This is already turning out to be a long day. Now missions prove to be the same. First dealing with a mud-wrapped nest and then titanite acquisition. Before assassinating outlaws at a station I have taught a lesson to 3 times by now. Followed by an abyssal creature hunt to another reclamation before anchoring at a coalition mining outpost. And our start was not great. Barely leaving Binsmith, we come under fire of spinelings. A large one claimed my pet husk container before I could even react. They will pay. But alas, we were dead before I could enact vengeance. This way I don't grow attached to anyone. They die. They always die. And we can't afford to reset time for something so trivial as a pet experiment. The only friendship, the only person I can rely on is a good doctor. But time and time resets have proven. Speaking of the doctor, I still find myself furious. After having patched up the hull and made repairs, we were next to the mud raptor cave. I sent everyone but myself outbound to minimize risks, and most of it went as anticipated. Calm radios while I wrote my log, only to suddenly hear a panic as they come on attack by thrashers. The doctor being a victim, and almost a victim of incompetence to boot. The security officer failed to protect the doctor, and while they both, by what I could tell from the radio, scrambled to save the only one valuable amongst the 3, but someone managed to almost kill him with failed attempts at first aid. I am surrounded by incompetence. Alas, to my great surprise, and with gritting teeth, I must admit it. I offered to man an emergency rescue. The technician of all managed to stabilize the doctor enough for him to save himself before we returned successfully. I then questioned everyone involved. As per the doctor, security has been necessary medical know-how, but by his words, I'm there to kill, and I don't have a space in between all these guns. Whatever first aid course I would sign him up for is clearly lost on this buffoon. He serves no purpose beyond being a grunt, but much has become evident. On the other hand, the technicians seem to have had some return, albeit brief, to full cognitive function. The situation escalated because he still held on to most of his repair equipment, and, prudent decision that he made, abandoned his welding tool to administer morphine. Perhaps I'll be more merciful to him until we arrive at New Siberia for the kill contract. While we are getting ready to depart, I watched in horror as a clown chief security before some sort of recreational pole dance, which was then thankfully interrupted by the attack of a crawler spawn. Never did I think I would thank the ship coming under attack to save my dwindling patience, but here I am. As we arrive at New Siberia Station, apparently a crime was committed upon the ship. But I'm more inclined to believe that the doctor and I removed the steroids head security has been holding. Field testing is overdue, and staying behind myself, the doctor administered sanctioned steroids to security and was sent guns blazing into the station. Apparently he was only able to take down 3 before going down and being set on fire. Compared to my performance, a bit pathetic, but without the mind to gather muscle, what can one expect? Clearly, not a lot. At least it bodes well should a mutiny arise supported by him. I'm so vastly superior. Despite all, the bandit leader did bleed out while the good doctor administered first aid and sent me the reports. The rest was routine. I let security deal with them. An explosion followed by laughter, and clearly the man has fallen into a combat frenzy. All shall fall beneath me, he shouted over the radio. Do not forget your place, and I have my eyes on you. But stifling with enthusiasm for now is still advised, especially since he found an earth artifact, a medieval knight helmet. When I found him dragging a corpse into command, a present to prove my handiwork, the mutilated body of a bandit, arms and legs chopped off, I appreciate the show of loyalty. If it was loyalty, and a simple display of this could be you. And I suppose it would be normal to be disgusted by him, but I'm simply indifferent. It appears the doctor received similar presents, as a clown informed me before I confirmed it myself. Goodness, enthusiasm, and apparently to also feed our remaining husk container. Also, as per the clown's panic over opiate addiction, my ruse with the sufferine had worked the other day. Perfect. And I step out for 10 minutes and come back to the ship out of oxygen, with security and clown fighting, and by my estimate also under heavy influence of drugs. I administer emergency repairs and inform the doctors positively corridors are painted and vomit. My patience is thin, and now one of the HMGs is missing, and as I get informed by security, the projectile vomited all over my person. Thus the doctor had some revelations. The moment security is around, the cone positively shuts down, suspecting there has been severe abuse beyond regular disciplining. As security then proceed to try and listen into mine and the doctor's conversation, I feel reaffirmed. I isolate the technician and question him. Turns out this kind of forced substance abuse is a regular occurrence. Chief security is clearly part, if not major aspect of the problem, and the clownery is a coping tool. I must deliberate this. While I was discussing with the doctor, the clown was almost killed again. I watched it through a window. I should discipline and confront security. I cannot believe it has come to this. Security didn't even admit to. The clown knows where he stands now. I think it was a success. The ship would be falling into anarchy if it wasn't for me. The clown would be dead all the same. At least watching the husk crate eat another corpse fills me with hope that it will survive. But for now there's no time. We must depart and do look forward to staring into the abyss again. Next would be the abyssal hunting grounds after all. I must have more insights into them. I must know more. And there was a contract out on this one. The abyss beckons, and I will see to it they will fear my gaze. Afterwards, just reclaiming Rancliffe from hostile fauna. Again. I swear the coalition would achieve nothing without my expedition force at the depths of the Great Sea. I don't know how to put this in a different way, but this is utterly disappointing. I was looking forward to a battle with another Charybdis, or an Antworm even. But the pitiful creature that tried to drag us into an untimely demise was a ledger, which both a nuke, chain gun fire, and canister rail awaited. Rancliffe. It's been a while since I've cleaned it out from mud raptors. I was still unaware and blind at the time to many truths. And now it is infested with husks. Security, over-eager and roided up, ran ahead. I did give the go, but very quickly found himself incapable of dealing with what a failed ascension looks like. The station was fully overrun, and already regular husked humans are an issue. Despite mine and the doctor's insistence, he completely ignores the danger of uncontrolled infection. I had once thought to take out arms myself and chase after him. Once I found him, he was in dire straits trying to fend off a chimera, which he also didn't understand the anatomy of. Simply making it just stop moving the first time is nothing to such an advanced, well-adapted creature to the dangers of the death. But it is not adept to me. Since security in the mildly annoyed arms of a good doctor, I vent my frustrations the only way that works every time. Tearing a station's inhabitants apart. First, clinical dissection of a chimera. Quite the interesting subject to dissect. Limbs elongated, surgical knives to both dig into walls and tear through combat suits. A total set of 12 I was able to still count. Had multiple ovipositors as well as much more pronounced mandibles. The once humanoid host was completely consumed and compartmentalized. be sure, I hacked off every limb and severed the head after making an incision at the neck base. Then there were also the remnants of some engineer who got assaulted into while wearing a mining mech suit. Immune to my gunfire outside of a broken frontal visor, though which I could still see grey matter remnants and skull shards held together as some sort of defensive shell around the calyx. I almost felt bad for it as I repeatedly bashed my axe into it. One day, I thought to myself, I'll conquer this. Admiring the monster is what my professor would call it. Until then, the Ranatai proved to be just as easy to clinically dissect. Insides are few, but the Chimera was an interesting encounter and clearly underestimated the capability of certain calyx strains to utilize tools. Fascinating. I did get scratched and administered proactive antibiotics, but my firm belief that it requires more than this treatment put me to stop briefly remains true. And my, did I need this. My hands no longer shake. My focus has returned. With bursts of violence, I'm starting to get more under control. They're driven to precision. If I retain control, then by all means, there's no point in pretending. In moments like this, it is an indulgence of curiosity, and I itch for more, but I must temper my enthusiasm as the doctor retrieves the Chimera corpse, which sadly dissolved by the time the doctor was done attending with security officer. A shame. My records must be enough then. The last drop on the straw will be back to coalition grounds, and our metal supply is starting to run low. Ammunition's restocked. I believe we are ready to depart for Hector Mining, and from there a brief pause at Binsmith, most likely. The trip was mostly uneventful, until right during docking a giant spining tried to take us down, but the station fired at it, now a defense. My radioing in for backup during docking did not fall on dead ears. However, in his vast commotion, it appears our remaining husk container found its demise. My life expectancy is short. I was told as much. They are flawed experiments, but it is a shame, really. It is, after all, the first form of semi-symbiotic relation between a parasite and humanity. An early form of domestication, in a sense I would have liked to explore more, but post-mortem dissection will have to suffice for now. The majority of our stay at Hector Mining was uneventful, the same old quartermaster routine. Thankfully, much needed supplies were in stock, as well as some of the more exotic goods both I and my good doctor are gunning for: a perlixene, sulfur rifle, a little something the doctor had been meaning to work on, while Insinium and Oxygen I would serve my personal supply of more advanced combat equipment, Dementon I for gravity rails, Physicorium as I intend on cycling out our regular ammunition. Thankfully, Hector Mining was willing to supply us, as thanks for finally clearing up the ledger and dealing with the raiders at one of their deeper facilities. Again, how bad is Hector's security, for crying out loud? The day progressed to pleasant surprises. First, I finally found a response from a cult of the Husk higher-ups. My reputation preceded, and my last demonstration of unwillingness to cooperate with the silence has lent myself an audience. My letter was short. A new ecclesiarch, a more experienced one, would be in touch with me at Binsmith and patiently wait for our arrival. Ha! It's more deserving of someone of my standing and reputation. Apparently the station I cleaned out was one they were desperately trying to get control over, due to rogue elements within the organization. They were impressed by my clinical and efficient dispatching of a chimera. In the words, a regrettable outcome of an utterly butchered ascension. Butchered, yes, but valuable in its data. If a thing like that could be controlled, the military applications would be fascinating. At least for now, they are finally willing to comply without me having to resort to further demonstrations of insistence. Informing the doctor eagerly, I found him head deep in chemical box. The table was littered with vials, and I could see the remnants of the materials I had earlier brought over. Greeting me, I noticed the glint again. He managed to figure something out, and I was about to learn. And learn I did. Besides alien physiology, he has been studying several properties of alien substances of Europa as well. Similar to he saw applications beyond the mediocre and evident. He had previously found a medicine he had been meaning to reverse engineer, and with the latest supplies, this was a success. A total of 10 doses, 5 for himself and 5 for me, each specifically made to enhance our physiology on multiple levels further than the genetic tempering already has, syringe for syringe administered, and while unlike the doctor it felt like I was losing somewhat focus in between, it was painless compared to the genetic splicing. Oshets's muscles bulged, still sinewy, like he has always been, but I am trained, and I've seen enough military personnel to recognize the type that can lift a bodybuilder over a head while looking like a leaf in the wind. Same for myself. My grip put a dent into the chair I was holding onto with my left as I administered into my right arm. The arm, no, it is there. The death happened, but it didn't, I reminded myself. The next doses, he explained, would increase our reaction time significantly, especially when under duress. Different from what has been done to the security officer and more in tune with a human's primary response, bursts of movement. Before it was of similar nature, it would cause our body's lung capacities to increase in tolerance levels of low brain oxygen. I was never a shallow breather, but naturally my breathing slowed, simply without much reason to need to gasp as much for air. It would be a lifesaver in these deaths. As always, the doctor's foresight is impeccable. The rest, he then explained, did not show traits. I watched him administer his remaining first. He did not mind indulging my professional curiosity. There have been incidents of doors welded shut. He reminisces our conversations of the previous days, and he can't have it that his access to crucial equipment or navigation ends up blocked due to the ill-advised actions of remaining crew. Thus, he enhanced his muscle strength and joints in his arms to increase his lift and leverage to human plus levels. Something I did not need, no argument with that. I was already plenty capable in that regard. I simply nodded in approval. Then he stared with some regret in his voice. The next, he just couldn't make work with my by now fairly unique physiology. I waved it off. No need to apologize, my eyes, whatsoever. The doctor's expert in this regard. But there were further changes to his metabolism. We'll have to repeat the comparison test with sprints. Apparently he has plans for more, but we were out of supplies and I'm holding the last two in my hand. Very well. So administered, he explained each one in detail. He had taken note of my interest and passion for poisons and chemical warfare, but I was simply lacking in uptake with certain more complex calculations. A kind way to put that I'm lacking in intellect compared to geniuses like him. Apparently he sought to remedy it, at least to a safe degree. If I've grown to become a conversation partner he appreciates enough to be able to not have to explain everything in greater detail and simpler terminology. I think my smile confused him, as I simply administered with a very well. One day he'll understand that I take the few friendships I've retained as more important than most things, and I do count him amongst the select circle. Perhaps he has begun seeing it the same way, and I was right, because he cannot convince me of the argument that the last boosters were for him, the rest of the crew than myself. On death, my body would extrude pheromones similar to that of a queen bee from Earth, empowering the resilience of the remaining crew. Notably himself, in case of him needing to recover me or fend off anything strong enough to put me down. If that isn't a declaration of friendship beyond just usual partnership, I do not know what else would be. I've grown to enjoy our little comparative tests, and indeed, as I suspected, the doctor quite outpaces me significantly again. All is well in that regard. He must be placed as quickly and effectively, and I can keep up well enough where he need be. And so was the outboard from everyone else on ship. With that, I excused myself to retire. It's late, and I remind him to do the same. He suffered significant injury and has been working long hours for the sake of his expedition. Next time we're in city, I'll take him carousing with me. I think it'll do him good. Plus, I need to keep an eye on the security officer from now on. With that and all preparations done for our by now very familiar route back to Binsmith Research Station, I retire for the first time in a long while with a more positive disposition. The church has answered me. I've reached a new peak of condition. Despite all, I even have some answers to the condition of my technician. And yet, even so, as I lay down and set the wires, bells, and alarms, count all my equipment and close my eyes, all I hear is screaming, growing more muffled and distant. You hear whispers and clawing, the cracking of bones, the tearing of my own flesh by my hand, the shaking of my hands in the shops, and I tear into something, and I feel the gnashing of my teeth, and I hopefully end up comatose for the night. It is a droning cacophony in these quiet moments, and all of it feels so hostile, and I swear I see her face mocking me again in the reflection of the metal, the red hues of the emergency light.